Alright, so it is 97 degrees in here. Well, I don't know about in here, but it is 97 degrees outside. And this background is a little weird. I don't have closets. I don't have doors to my closet. It's a long story, but here I am today talking about media literacy, via some recent events, I guess you could say. And my first topic, basically, this is how bad reviews ruined media literacy. Okay, so a lot of the time critics and audiences will disagree. And a recent example is the Michael Jackson movie Michael. The fans ate that shit up, okay? And there are a lot of people that criticized it for, not bringing up anything negative about Michael, not bringing up any allegations or, some pedo shit. But here's the thing. Legally, they're not going to bring that up. The Michael Jackson estate is not going to allow a movie about that to be made. Unfortunately, we do not live in a world where biopics are allowed to have any kind of interesting take, go against their formula that they have that works. It's not the world we live in. But besides that, the movie was what the fans wanted, okay? It was a recreation of the music videos, a recreation of, the high budget stuff that the fans wanted to see. And I do believe, it seems like it has nothing to do with media literacy, but I do believe that we need to, when people criticize, when people critique, we need to think about what the audience is, because what the intended audience is. Because the audience is the Michael Jackson fans, okay? They don't want to see anything about Neverland Ranch. They don't want to see him being a weirdo, okay? Because they don't believe that's real. They're not going to watch the movie. The movie is, to make money ultimately. So no, they wouldn't watch the movie. And you can argue like, okay, the movie could have been about something deeper, but it really just couldn't have in this world. I'm sorry, it couldn't have. Something so high budget would not be able to be made. There's plenty of documentaries about Michael Jackson, but it's the movie, it's for the fans, and it's just like weird to assume that it's gonna be anything else, okay? And like, I disagree with it, but I'm just saying, like, don't, just keep it. It's for the fans. It's what the fans wanted, and it did well. So I guess my first, I don't know what I'm saying. No. So most people, they want to be entertained by media. That is their number one goal. They want to be entertained and, somewhat agree with the message of the movie, of the thing, because, sometimes things are entertaining, but they are ultimately very offensive. So you wouldn't say that you liked that. So anyway, that's why I put that caveat in there. But anyway, if someone asks you if you enjoyed a movie, you're gonna think, was I entertained? Did I enjoy watching this movie? Obviously, but this isn't really the purpose of a critic, okay? And hear me out. Critics aren't going to consider the audience. Critics, especially like traditional critics, right? They're going to consume more media than the average person. They're going to consume a broad range of genres also, typically. And this is why we trust their opinions, because they have a lot to compare to. It's not the first movie they've ever seen. They have a lot to compare it to. They have a lot of, knowledge of their media. But this kind of does make them like a jack of all trades, right? Because you can't know equal amount about every genre. You can't be invested in every fandom and be, involved in every culture. Like it's not possible. Everyone is biased, and critics, they might claim to not be biased, but everyone is biased, okay? Everyone likes their certain things, okay? Like, there are some genres that I don't enjoy, and if someone asks me if for a recommendation in that genre, My recommendation is probably not gonna be something that they like because, I like, an action movie that I like is not gonna be an action movie that action movie lovers like. Things that I like about action movies, probably not the same things as an action buff would like about an action movie. So it's like, sometimes it lines up, sometimes it doesn't. But, critics, they don't consider the audience because sometimes they can't because, like, again, they're not involved in the culture, they're not involved in the fandom, and they wouldn't know. And I bring this up not only because of the Anthony Fantano, like, Halsey situation, because, he brings his own bias in. He has this bias about the pop girlies and their personal lives, and he will bring it up in reviews. Not only Halsey, but Ariana Grande and other female artists, Taylor Swift, because his fans are his fans. Like, they don't want to hear someone praising pop music. They don't want to hear someone praising a pop record. That's not what they came here to see. So, like, his audience is biased. He's biased. Um, that's just the way it is, okay? He's not a pop girly, he's not a pop fan, so he wouldn't be able to review it in a way that, is relevant to the pop girlies. That's just not his audience. Even if he was fair, even if he were to make a fair review, that wasn't critical of a pop star's personal life, was all in good faith. Like, ultimately, the music is not for him, so the critique isn't for pop fans, isn't for the girlies. Like, it's for the bros, it's for the male music nerds, are his fandom, right? Like, it wouldn't even make sense if he were to make a good faith critique. And I'm really not trying to justify, like, what he said about Halsey. It's weird as fuck that he, like, doubled down on that, and he's just like he's just gonna double down and be like, I'm not sexist. I like albums by women. Like, okay, that doesn't mean that you're not sexist, weirdo. Like, there's more than one way to be sexist, and it's not just like Andrew Tate, like, because that's like these progressive men that hate women and just don't respect women. That's what they think. I think, well, I'm not Andrew Tate, so I'm not such a bad guy, right? And Anthony Fantano, I respect him more than like an Alex Myers, which I'll bring up later. Because he is more of a traditional critic, but I think the issue is that he does have this fandom that he has to kind of call to, and he has, garnered a following that is, that are music nerds. I don't know how to say this because I have my own biases against male hipster nerds because they have wronged me in many ways just because of who I am as a person. But I also think that, men do critique things differently because they are, again, coming from they're a different audience. They're coming from a different perspective. Okay. And this also ties in with the Alex Myers thing because of, like, the movie Obsession. Reviews of it and critiques of it that are from men are very different than the ones from women. And I've seen a lot of discourse, I've seen a lot of videos, I've seen a lot of comments about these films. And, obviously there are men that have the wrong idea and are on Bear's side. And here is the thing, this is just the context that different people bring to the media that they consume. Because if you're a woman and most of us are cis, if you're a woman, only ever lived life as a woman, you're not going to really be able to relate to men in the same way that a man can, and vice versa. If you're a man, you're not going to be able to relate to women, you're not going to be able to relate to misogyny in the same way, right? You're not going to be able to recognize it in the same way. And even men that did have, not the incel point of view on this movie, they still don't have the same perspective as a woman either way at the end of the day, because I've seen a lot of yeah, I've seen a lot of women say that they relate to Nikki, and I've seen a lot of men be like, that's like my girlfriend. My girlfriend's fucking crazy," or whatever. But there's a certain level of empathy that these people just don't have. At the end of the day, I'm kind of rambling. The thing is, if you're a man, you're more likely to relate to a male character. It's just the way it is. It's, probably somewhat subconscious, but, it's just the way it is. If you're a man and you've only ever lived life as a man, that's just who you're going to relate to. So even if, you're not an incel, you're not Alex Myers, you're not like a fucking weirdo, you're still gonna like relate to Bear. You're still gonna see like, because that's how you've lived life. That's your context for life. And same with Nikki, right? Because I see a lot of the girlies. I hate that. I see a lot of women say that they relate to Nikki. Um, and I watched a great video by Bitnia, I think that's how you say your name, about like reactive abuse. That was great. And I've seen, comments that are kind of rehashing the same idea, that they relate to Nikki and they've been in these relationships where men, or not necessarily men, but where they've just been abused to the extent that they have just started acting fucking crazy like Nikki did. And, I personally don't find that as relatable, but, I could find myself relating to Nikki while watching the movie, which is not something that men are going to do unless they're kind of told to do this. And even, like, reviews that I've seen, I think this guy's name is Cinemacabre. I've never seen his film critiques before, but I did watch a couple videos that he made about Obsession. And I just think it's really interesting to hear a male perspective, because it's different. Like, they don't feel the feeling of, having a man project onto you, and like being, how scary that is, how scary that can be. Like, they don't relate to it in that way. I'm kind of like just going on such a tangent. Um yeah, so it's just an example of like men are going to relate to Bear. They're going to, ask themselves when they see that, like, would I do that? And even if the answer is no, that's still the question that they're asking themselves. They're not trying to see themselves in Nikki, because, they've never been through something like that. So they've never been a woman. So that's just the different things that we bring to the table. And the whole Alex Myers thing, it's just, reviewing these movies that he reviews is just like, it's such low hanging fruit. It's so like, it just shows a lack of media literacy, like, just immediately to me, because this is the thing, is that these Lifetime movies, these like Netflix movies that are made to, either catch on TV while you're flipping through channels, or watch while you're doing your laundry. That's the purpose of these movies. They're not movies where like you have to have your brain fully turned on, you have to be looking at every single frame of the movie. They are, background movies, or however you want to look at it. It just shows a lack of media literacy, like just going for those low hanging fruit and making fun of these like Lifetime kind of Netflix second screen movies, because these movies aren't intended to be the way they are. And again, like when it goes back to audience, these movies are not intended to be, peak cinema movies that make you think, cerebral movies. No, they're movies that you can, when it comes to Lifetime, no, there are movies that, you kind of have on in the background. There are movies that you can catch halfway through and still understand what's going on. And these kind of weird, absurd moments in these movies that are awkward are, so that you stop flipping channels, so that you look up from your doing your laundry. Like, there's a purpose to these movies and they're not meant to be deep, and it's kind of stupid to, critique them like they're so serious, because like a lot of these movies, like they're intended to be like campy, they're intended to be funny. The ones that are funny are intended to be funny, and it just shows like just a lack of media awareness to act any other way. And I think especially with streaming, like these movies are taken out of their context. Like you're not scrolling through TV anymore, probably not. You're probably watching them on a streaming platform, and you have this like whatever Pregnant at 15 like Lifetime movie right next to Everything Everywhere All at Once, and those are your two options of movies to watch. It's kind of like it takes it out of context and kind of puts it on the same plane, which like no, these movies aren't. These movies have very different purposes and very different audiences. Like no one is watching Lifetime movie like, I don't want to say sincerely, people are sincerely watching them, but they're not watching them because they're peak cinema or anything. Like most people, the vast majority of people that watch them say that they're guilty pleasures. Even the core audience for these movies, those people consider them either guilty pleasures or just something silly to watch after a long day at work. It's not, it's truly like, it's not that serious. You're not smarter than the director. They also imply that like they're so much smarter than the people making these movies. It's like no, it's like real people are making these movies and acting in them and writing them, and you know they're very aware of how the movie is coming across. Like they're not dumb. They've made movies before and they know like these movies, the sets may not be unionized, but these people have made movies before and they are human beings, and therefore, get when something's awkward, get when something is campy, and it's just like I don't know. It's just like that is a lack of media literacy, is like not understanding the context of these films. And I don't know, you might say like it's not that deep, but it's like I'm gonna tell that to these fucking people that just like roast these movies that are not supposed to be sincere. Like again, I said sincere again, but like I don't want to say sincere, but they're not supposed to be, they're not trying to win an Oscar or anything. Like it's supposed to be entertaining. The vast majority of people, like, they watch movies to be entertained. They don't watch movies to have their mind blown or anything. Sometimes it's good to watch a movie that makes you think, but most people don't want to do that all the time, okay? We all enjoy a silly movie every once in a while. Like, it's just like, it's this fucking hipster urge to never admit that you like something unironically. You have to be like, oh, this movie's so stupid. Like, really? Because it seems like you're enjoying it. Like, it seems like you really like it. And it's fine. Like, it's fine to enjoy a silly movie, like I said, but, don't act like you're watching it to make fun of it when you're watching it to enjoy it. And I watched this movie. This is kind of what set me off. I watched this movie like 6 months ago called Punch from 2002, and I'll insert the screenshot from Reddit. It's, yeah, it's a movie about, well, I'll just read it. Almost every scene in this movie is uniquely demented. This is from r/bad movies. Ariel is in love with her own dad. Dad likes a woman named Mary. Ariel gets jealous and assaults Mary. Mary's sister is an undefeated, topless boxing champ who wants revenge. It's like Tommy Wiseau made a Lifetime movie. This review is just absolutely insane after watching the movie, because like the movie is intended to be funny. Like I don't really get, and this person doubled down in the comments because someone was like, pretty sure it's supposed to be funny, and then he's like, oh no, it's really not, it's really awkward. It's like, that's why it's funny. And I don't know if I'll be able to find any clips from this movie online to insert, but there's this part of this movie where the daughter puts on these tap shoes, and her dad like hires this guy to like tutor her, and she's just being really weird, and she puts them on and starts dancing in front of him like, to make him laugh, and he's just like not laughing. It's a really awkward and funny scene. I can't imagine watching this scene and thinking that it's not intentionally funny. And I do feel like I'm gonna assume this is a man making this review, not only because his name is Mr. Tweak, just because of this just what is in the review makes it seem like it is a male of the male species. I'm gonna assume that this is just one of those cases where people don't get when women are being funny, and the only time women are taken seriously is when they tell a joke, and that's just kind of an example of this, in my opinion, because this is a movie, written by a woman featuring strong female characters. I hate that phrase, do that. But for real, strong female characters. So it's just the media literacy there. What? And also The Room, I don't enjoy. I don't enjoy The Room, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like it's for people that have like never seen a funny bad movie before. Like it's just for people that like can't find their own niche movie to laugh about, and like even like it reminds me a lot of Love on a Leash, and I think that they were probably made around the same time. Love on a Leash, I believe, was released in like 2013, but it's definitely from like the early 2000s. Love on a Leash is just so much better than The Room, and they are similar movies in a lot of ways, but I don't know. I'm a Love on a Leash fan, That movie is great. Female director, female writer. Maybe that's why I like it. That's why I like it, maybe. Because The Room is just like, it's so unrelatable. Like, I don't know. I don't know. It's for the boys. It's for the boys. And this is another thing is like male critics, like men that like whatever film bros, male critics, they really don't get that what they're saying is not objective. Like they truly believe that what they're saying is objective. And this is in general. Like a man will be like, "Oh, this is the best movie ever. Like you're gonna love it. It's so good." And then you watch it and it's like, "Why did you recommend this to me?" It's always a movie with like a 100% male cast that like a woman like couldn't enjoy. Like I'm not for real. Like they just don't understand that. Like I personally don't want to watch a bros movie. I don't like unless it's critiquing the bros. I don't want to watch a bros movie. I don't, and I'm not saying like just because a movie has a lot of men in it doesn't mean, or it has a male main character, doesn't mean it's sexist or whatever. Like sometimes it is like critiquing the men. Sometimes it is Wolf of Wall Street or Fight Club or something like this, or Obsession. And just because a movie has female main character doesn't mean it's not fascist propaganda. Just saying, like, they just really have no sense of, like, what women want to watch. I don't know. Like, I just can't. I can't talk about media with men. I truly can't. Like, it just makes me so frustrated because they just, like, have no idea. Like, they don't know. They don't know what I want to watch and what I like. And then they, like, judge you for liking, like, something that's for the girlies, It's like, okay, it's for my demographic. They drive me insane. They truly drive me insane. I guess I should add this, like, I'm not just talking about Lifetime or Netflix movies or these second screen movies. I'm talking about, like, any type of movie. Like, this is why I bring up Punch. Um, People just look down on movies for not being serious right now, which, like, it doesn't make any sense. The movie is trying to entertain you. The director knows what they're doing. This is just kind of my point with, like, especially with Punch, because it's like, this movie is meant to be awkward, meant to be uncomfortable, meant to be bizarre. It's not an accident because people like this is their level of media literacy is where like they think things are an accident in film. in films where it's like clearly not, and it's like, I don't know, especially like American audiences just don't understand camp anymore. Like it's just they think it's accidental for some reason. Anyway, I'm done. This is my video. The sun is setting. It's been a while since I've sat in this chair, been a couple hours. So I keep forgetting to say this, but please like, subscribe, comment, and add this video to your favorites.